But when it comes to like marriage and relationship, this is probably like the second cause of why couples come into therapy. First being the financials, I think everybody knows, and second being communication. But part of the reason couples come into therapy is because they're not able to communicate about their needs when it comes to their finances, their lifestyle, what they want to do in life, what they want to achieve as a couple. And this really starts like at the beginning, right? Like right when you're courting someone, right when you're getting to know someone. Communication is so important in those like, that little period of time when you're starting to meet new people and you're looking for someone to get married to. So important to like communicate what it is that you would like and what it is that you're looking for, and do it in a way so that the other person is able to receive it and understand it and accept it, so that they also are on like the same level as you are. So in doing so, a lot of the time, when this is me talking to the individuals here who are single and are looking to get married, as you start meeting people, as you start going out and, you're getting introduced either by friends, family, whomever, think about how you are, presenting yourself in terms of your communication to them. Are you clear? Are you being open? Are you really saying what it is that you want to say, rather than something the other person is thinking, or would like for you to say? Think about what it is that they're saying and what is it that they're really meaning, and are you asking for clarification? I think a lot of the times, even if we're working, we're, talking to our supervisors, our bosses, our clients, our employees, whomever, if they don't get what we're saying, they're going to do the job wrong. They're not going to understand what it is you're trying to get out there, what message it is that you're trying for them to get. Same thing in marriage. If your spouse or partner or future partner doesn't know what it is that you're trying to say, they're going to find themselves like kind of like just guessing and winging it to the best of their knowledge. So it's so important to be clear. So today we're going to talk about like a lot of some of like the same stuff. So, we talked about like, what is communication? So communication is the transfer of information between two things, right? Like when you say something to me or I say something to you, that's us talking and transferring information. Just like right here, we're transferring information. There's different types of communication, as you all know. There's verbal, where you're speaking words and you're saying things. There's nonverbal, which is also what I'm doing with moving my hands, the gestures that I'm making, the tone, my body language, how I'm standing, what I'm doing, whether or not what I'm saying is effective in terms of being clear, in terms of you understanding, and whether it's ineffective. If I'm talking about, the sky's purple today, guys, you're like, huh? What? Where did I come from? So, by the way, I want to give you a little disclaimer, and I'll give it to you now. There are going to be a lot of corny jokes, so bear with me. It's just a lot easier, makes it a lot lighter, and I think jokes say a lot more than you think. So I really like this one. The last time he told me I looked hot, I didn't see her. And you'd be surprised. This actually happens. We see that. All right, so let's talk a little bit about nonverbal. So facial reactions, whether you're smiling, frowning, laughing, excited. I know it's hard to tell because we're all in mask right now and everything's covered, but you can still kind of see the eyes and like, the brow waxing and like all of that good stuff. So, that's important. I think eye contact is so important, especially in a relationship. I've seen people like literally sitting next to each other and they're like, yeah, honey, can you go and do that? I'm like, she's there, not there, like talk face to face. Make sure you guys are looking at each other. Eye contact sets a tone that you are now in tune with me. You're talking to me. You're not talking to the wall. You're not looking up at the sky. You're not worried about what's on your Facebook or Instagram or whatever. You're here in the moment with me. And that makes a huge difference in a relationship. It makes your partner or your future partner know that you're giving them the attention that they really need in that moment. I've seen people out having coffee together. I'm an observer. It looks like I'm a stalker, but I'm really not. This is like, I don't know, I think it happened when I was like a kid. I just like look around at what people are doing. Maybe that's why I came into the field too. So, I watch people sometimes like at a coffee shop and I'm just like, are they really on a date? Like, because she's like checking her Instagram and he's like checking some other girl out. And I'm just like, what? Yeah, are you guys here together or looking for somebody else? And, I think it's so important to give that attention to your partner or to that person who you're with, because then they feel like so good. Like, well, this dude's like really into me. Or like, oh, this girl is really interested in what I have to say. Right? Kind of like a confidence builder right there, right? It makes your partner or person sitting next to you feel like, wow, this person's really into me and this person really cares about what I have to say. Think about being in a boardroom, right? You're in a meeting. You're, with your big boss, like, the person who owns the company, CEO, whatever. And if they're like out wondering about their next $1 million and not really paying attention to what you're trying to say, you're going to be like, maybe what I'm trying to pitch is not good enough, right? Same concept with your wife or husband or your future spouse. If you're not giving them the attention that they want, they will not be willing to like connect with you. Because they're just like, you're too busy. You're ignoring me. You're not interested. You have something better to do. I'm number 2 and not number 1. Nobody likes being number 2, guys, especially in a relationship, okay? Always make sure when you're talking, you're maintaining constant eye contact. Talk to people, look at them, make them feel like, wow, like, you're here. Thank you. You showed up. Like, wow, you're home. Let me sit down and have like a conversation with you. I once had a client who told me, I get uncomfortable making eye contact with my wife. I was like, okay. I was like, tell me more. Like, you just got my attention. And, and he would say, it scares me. I'm like, all right, let's figure it a little bit more. Why does it scare you? He's like, I don't know. When I look into her eyes, I feel like she's just gonna get mad at me for something. So I avoid eye contact. Like, I was like, okay, honey, I'm going to work. Or, I'll try to like jet out as quickly as possible. Okay. So I literally have that sit like across from one another. And I was like, let's do an activity. Let's just look into each other's eyes for like 5 minutes and I'll put a timer on. They're like, no. We're like, oh, can we make it like 3 minutes? And even in those 5 minutes, the amount of time we looked away from each other, I was like counting. I was like, you know how you do like lesbian, you like count? I was like, and like literally, I was like, you guys looked away from each other more than you looked at each other. And the reason was is because they never built that intimacy with each other, that relationship with each other, where they could feel comfortable enough to look into their eyes and say, honey, I love you, or, thank you, or whatever. So, and that took a lot of time. They're still working on it. Let's just put it there. But, that's really important. That actually starts from the beginning. I know, like, religiously, we're asked to lower our gaze, when we speak to the opposite gender, we're asked to like, and there's a good reason for that. But when you're courting someone, when you're talking to someone, it's a form of respect to look at them and to look into their eyes or to look at their face. I was actually just having this conversation with my son. He was, he had me standing there and he's telling me about something he wants to do when we get home tonight. And he's like looking around. He's like, Mom, when we get home, can we play, this? And I'm like, Mom's not there. Mom's right here. Come look at me. And he's just like, Mom, can we play? Like, there you go. Now you got my attention too. So it's important to like learn that. And I think a lot of our cultures, they also teach that like, making eye contact is not appropriate. You should always like, when you're talking to someone, it's, out of respect to lower your gaze. Of course, our religion teaches that as well. But when you're meeting someone, you're talking to someone, when you're married to someone, it's so important to give them that attention because they need to know that you're present in that moment. Just like you would when you're, again, at work. At work, when you're talking to your coworkers, Casey, Brian, Tim, John, whatever, you're not like, hey, can you go get me that presentation that was there last week? You look at them and you say, hey, can you go grab me that presentation that we worked on last week? And then you get the job done effectively, quickly, you communicated that I got you, you got me, let's go get this done. So eye contact is very important. Posture. Posture. We all have terrible posture. I have terrible posture. I just like, you know, I don't know. I think it's all that like they see like carrying backpacks all your life. You feel like you're just like constantly like, you know, walking to the bus stop and all that good stuff. So I think our working on that. But posture is very important too when you talk to people. Posture actually shows confidence. It really like, you know, I don't know if you guys know about like the Superman pose, you know, like the, you know, like it actually works, like for real. Like it's in our heads, we think it doesn't work, but it really does work. When you build yourself up, when you hold yourself up high, when you're like, you know, strong and you're confident in the way you feel and your posture is great, you feel more confident. You feel more comfortable. You feel stronger. You feel like, I got this. No one's gonna stop me, right? But if we're like lounging and we're like walking and like whatever, you're gonna feel like crap all day. Simple as that, you know? So when you talk to someone, when you have a conversation with someone, make sure that your posture is, you know, great. You're having a conversation. You're connecting with that person. Again, you're not like, oh my God, why do I have to be here? It's more like, oh, I'm here. You know, let's talk. Let's get to know each other. Let's share something together. Posture can also be the opposite, right? Like that whole, you know, you don't want to be like, oh, I'm coming at you, like, you know. The reason I say that, I work with inmate guys, okay? These are big guys who are scary looking on the outside. And, you know, you sit in the office with them and you're like, hey, I know what you did, so please don't do it here. So, you know, it's like I have a tiny office. I don't have like a big office in Connecticut. So, you know, we can physically just maintain 6 feet without like, you know, anyone touching anything. So yeah, so when the guys come into my office, you know, I often notice they all come in like thugged out outfits and like, yeah, you know, this is downtown Hartford. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Connecticut, but downtown Hartford has its own reputation. So, you know, you'll often see like, you know, people coming in and they're like, hey man, I'm here for my counseling. And I'm like, all right, what's up? You know, like, oh, see. And, you know, but when they leave, you see that their posture is a lot different because now they've become comfortable in the environment. So now they're not like trying to scare me anymore. They're not trying to like approach me in a negative way. They're more comfortable, they're more relaxed. And I think that helps in building a relationship with people as well. When you're coming in and you're like, I'm big man on the block or I'm big girl on the block, like don't mess with me. Trust me, no one's gonna mess with you. No one's gonna even talk to you, right? But if you come in and you're relaxed, if you're enjoying yourself, you're comfortable in your skin, you're comfortable in what you're wearing, your posture is good, you're showing up, you're really, you know, connecting with the room that you're in, people are gonna like you. People are gonna want to talk to you. People are going to want to approach you because they can like almost sense that, you know, that there are no physical barriers, that there are no like, you know, issues or concerns, or this person is very welcoming. Same thing with your spouse, right? Like, let's say if your husband comes in and you're like, oh, where's my like, you know, broom, and you're like brooming or sweeping or mopping, or you just come home from a really bad work and you slam your door inside, your spouse is gonna be like, not touching that today. I'm just gonna cross over and go to my room or go to my hiding spot. But if you come in and your posture is nice, and if you're like, hey honey, I'm home, assalamualaikum, how's your day? How's everyone doing? You feel better. You feel like, okay, this person's coming in, they're happy, they're okay, their posture is more comfortable, they're not like creating this like barrier between the two of us where they don't feel comfortable or where I don't feel comfortable. They're making a space for me or us that is safe, that is open, that I can easily say, I had a crappy day, or I had a really good day, or today was not so bad, or you know what, today was really bad, I had to do X, Y, and Z. So it's all about the space that you create, and the way you create it is through your nonverbal actions, you know, and these things we don't even notice half of the time because we're doing them so, you know, on the regular that we feel like they're not really, you know, anything major. Whether it's crossing your arms, putting your hands in your pocket, you know, holding something in our hand, like, you know, why do you think, like, you know, when you're at a party, like a really big cocktail party, why do you think they serve drinks all the time? It's not to get people drunk. It's really just because it makes people comfortable when they're holding something in their hand. It makes them feel more like it's a barrier between the person that they're talking to and the person and themselves. Because when you have a drink in your hand, they could be like, oh my God, you can easily just like turn around and take a drink and put it right back, right? So now you've completely blocked them off. That's why they serve cocktails. It's really, they call it a social hour, really a social hour. Because if it was a social hour, you would be free to do whatever you want, to walk around, to talk, to use your hands, to, feel comfortable. But we have these little things like these little small sandwiches and things like that because we're creating barriers. And they make people feel more comfortable because they make you feel like I can shift my gear if I don't want to be in this conversation with this person. So when you're coming home, when you're being in your family, be sure to always be aware of your environment and what it is that you're putting out there. Attention and focus. This is the big one. So what is attention and focus, right? It's like, I have 90 things happening in the background, right? For some of you, if you have children, there's kids running around, there's, fires being put out, there's, everyone's trying to just figure out, how do I get these two to bed? That's me, actually. But, at the end of the day, when your spouse comes home, when your partner comes home, or even when you're starting to meet people, the focus makes a huge difference. Just having that one-on-one, making sure that person knows that you're here, they're here, you acknowledge their awareness, and that you're present for them. So keep that in mind as you guys are looking for partners, as you guys are working with your partners, that, that attention goes a really long way. More jokes ahead, guys, don't worry. All right, verbal, your tone. Huge difference. Tone is you could be happy, sad, mad, frustrated. My favorite is sigh. It's we think it's relieving, but we're kind of rolling our eyes at so your husband says, oh, well, I had a really long day at work. Okay, you had a long day, my day today? It's kind of our way of just saying oh, I'm just rolling my eyes. Being assertive, authoritative. How you speak to your partner makes a huge difference. Being assertive is not actually a bad thing, but it depends on the situation and the context of the conversation. So you can be assertive. You can say, this is what I like, or this is my opinion, or this is where I need to be. That's okay. But it's how you assert yourself that makes a huge difference, and in what situations you're asserting yourself in. And it's the language that you use. What you say and how you say it that makes a huge difference. You can say anything. You can say, I got into a car accident today, and you can say it I got into a car accident today. Or you can say I got into a car accident today. Or you can say it any way you want, but whatever way you say it is going to be the most expressive way of what you're trying to express to your spouse or partner. You can say the building's on fire, or you can say the building is on fire. Whatever you do, it's how you say it that makes a huge difference. I think a lot of times we forget. It's not to say that when you're, saying something mean to your partner, you should say it with a smile on your face. No. You can't be honey, that dress does not look good on you. No. You say it, you obviously have to choose your words, the right way. This is my favorite joke because it happens so often. What do you mean we don't communicate? I sent you an email on Monday. Guys, do not invite your spouse to your Google Calendar and expect them to accept the invite, okay? And be that reason or way to communicate where you are and when you're there. It doesn't work. I've seen that a lot. And Google, oh my God. Yeah, no, just don't do it. Let's just leave it there. It's not fun. You know, I think it's so important to talk to your partner about where you're at, what you're going to be doing, what your plans are for the day, for the week, if anything's changed. Google Calendar is really just there to be there. You know, a lot of times, you know, parents or spouses will be like, it was on the calendar. You didn't see it? No. Didn't see it. It's better to just say, hey, you know, plans got changed. I'm going to be X, Y, and Z. We have so much technology. Text them, call them, leave them a voice message. Even that, I'm going to really depend on it. Try to talk to them, basically. Do your best to communicate verbally to your partner that things have changed or that you're going to be doing something differently that day. Because, yeah, emails don't work. All right, so this is the fun part. One of the things that we, you know, wanted to talk about today is how your history in terms of your childhood, how it affects you as an adult. So how many people here really think that like your childhood has a huge impact into your adulthood in terms of personality? You all get psychology degrees. Mashallah, you're all therapists now. Yes, you're, you know, if you at some point in your lifetime, take a moment and sit back and think about how your parents spoke with each other and how they spoke with you. You know, this is a lot of core work of therapy. Think about how they resolve conflict. Was it always handled in private? Was it, if not, in what part did you just participate in play? Or did submissive? Who got the right word? Were they ever like passive towards each other when they were around other people? Were they loving and forgiving towards each other afterwards? Who do you think left their difficulties satisfied? And how did their situation make you feel? You know, as kids, you would probably, if you were to like think back, you'd be like, oh, you know, yeah, I saw mom and dad like argue, or you know, mom and dad had disagreements. But it never really affected me in any way. Never really changed me in any way. What it did is it planted a seed in a part of your brain and it left it there for like kind of like recall. And that information was used later as you grew up, as you felt other people communicate, whether it was like your friend's parents, whether it was like your teachers, whether it was how other people who were kind of like in that authority figure that we say, you know, communicate with you. This right here, taking a moment and sitting back and thinking about your parents and how they spoke to each other. If you do that today, at any point when you go home, you just kind of like take 5 to 10 minutes and like close your eyes and kind of like think back. I guarantee you would be able to write like a whole story about what experiences you felt or had, but you just never really thought of it. It has a huge impact because we basically at childhood, we start recording information in our brain, right? And we start, because we visualize, like we see all of the people around us, whether it's aunts, uncles, family members, whoever, we start kind of like seeing their interactions with each other. So we start building like a little file in a part of our brain where we start storing all of the information. And the information is really just, this is life experiences, right? You can label it however you want. And as you grow older, you start taking a little bit of that information out and bringing it forward. And you do it by how you interact with your own friends, how you interact with your parents as an adult, how you interact with siblings if you have, or with other family members, and how you interact with your friends. And then later on in life, when you start courting for marriage, when you start meeting people, when you start, you know, finding someone that you want to be with, it starts kind of like trickling into that. I actually had a client not too long ago where we were doing some of this work. We were, you know, because of the pandemic, we were working on this through Zoom. It's not recommended, but we tried because they were really struggling. And literally, it took him 5 minutes to like sit back and do this. It was like, oh, correct, I'm my dad. And it was true because he didn't even realize, because the way he would interact with his spouse, it was just like very like in the moment. right? He would just react to the situation, whether he got mad, whether he got upset, whatever the case may be. But he didn't realize that what he was doing was like actual learned behavior. It had been something that he had been so accustomed to seeing happening. He ignored it because he's like, that's my dad, that's his place, whatever. And, he kind of left it there, but he didn't realize it was like literally planting the seed in his brain that this is okay. That reacting the way I react, that being angry the way I'm angry is okay. Because he was taught that it was okay. So again, how parents communicate with each other impacts their future generation in so many ways. They're constantly role playing, and we are watching and trying this information to use when we need it. If we were to compare our current relationships from our past relationships, you will find at least 1 to 5 similarities within your own relationship. So like if you were to kind of put your parents' relationship and your relationship side by side, you'll see 1 to 5 similarities in terms of how you communicate, in terms of how you engage when it comes to intimacy, or how you express intimacy or love, how you connect in terms of like your conversation style. And like nobody wants to be like, everyone grows up, I'm not gonna be like that. If I could get a nickel for like that, I wouldn't have to work, guys. But we are so like, we take in so much information that before you know it, as an adult, you're practicing the way that you practice your life is the same way your parents practiced it. And it's not because you're doing it on purpose, or it's like, whatever, it's so natural. So at some point in life, you have to learn to break that cycle. Because especially if you're coming from like an unhealthy environment, you want to make sure you break that cycle, because you don't want to have that same like connection or that same relationship with your spouse that your parent did. And if it's a healthy relationship and a beautiful relationship, which there are a lot of, then that's great, because you're learning a lot of good stuff too. But just know that if you're experiencing, or if you have experienced, or your parents have experienced any type of negative like communication skills, just try to work on how can I move past that. What do I see in myself that would that's affecting my relationship? That's similar to what I've learned throughout the years. So like trust, love, anger, sadness, dependency are all behaviors and are all forms of communication that we learn throughout our childhood and adulthood. These are taught through life experiences and can evolve and change over time if you allow them. So it's not a lost cause. It doesn't mean that just because you didn't have like a childhood, or have parents who maybe weren't the most effective of communicators with each other. It may have worked for them, and that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with them. But it may not work for you because you're a completely different person, in a completely different environment, a completely different generation, who deals with situations in a completely different way than they do. So you can evolve from behaviors, you can change these behaviors just by talking about it, kind of looking inward and really seeing, okay, what did I learn from this experience? What have I learned from my parents? What have I learned from the past generations? And I mean, I think I'm Pakistani, so like for us, like it's so hard to go back like and ask questions about these things, because like everything's like, everyone was fine. We were all healthy. We were all good from 21, And like my mom's lucky that she's like, oh, we really come home. But it's really hard to get past generation information, because a lot of the times they didn't focus on these things, right? Because they were busy just managing their day-to-day. They were busy focusing on how do we get to the next day, depending on their environment, depending on what they were going through at the time. So we don't get a lot of that family history that you can get if you, sit down and actually create like that map of like, a whole family. I remember when I was in my master's program, my professor asked me like, oh, Maliha, part of like your final exam for the semester that you have to create like, a genome graph. And I was like, okay, that's going to be a small one. But he was like, and he's like, try to go back as far as you can, and they wanted to, what we do in therapy is that when we have the opportunity, we sit down with our clients and we create a map of your whole family. So we go from like grandparents on both sides, we go on your side, siblings, relationships, children, if there have been any like deaths in the family, what the cause of the death was, if there's any like substance abuse, sexual abuse, trauma, all of that stuff. You like go through it just to get a good picture of where is this one individual coming from, right? Because that's how we learn. We learn through family history. So I remember when I had to do that genogram, I asked my mom, yeah, so I mean, like, was there any like, substance abuse in the family? She's like, what is that? And I was like, did anyone ever like drink or do drugs or like have a problem? She's like, that's all haram. I was like shot down. I was like, okay, then. No for that. Or I just put like a question mark. There were a lot of question marks on my genogram. And I remember we had to present it to our class, and my professor was like, what are all those kind of question marks? I was like, information that's not available. And so, nobody discloses that information. You go to grave with that. She was like, okay, we'll talk after class. So, that's why it's so important to know where you're coming from and where your partner is coming from. Not to say like the next time you guys go out on like a coffee date or whatever, don't bring out the genogram, right? Like, yeah, don't do that. That's like a huge no. But definitely, like, as you're getting to know the person, as you're getting to know their family, ask about how problems are dealt with. When was the last time your family was faced with a really big issue? You don't have to disclose the issue, but how was it? Those are good questions to ask because that actually gives you insight into how that person has learned to handle issues, right? So, like, sorry, my mom's actually calling. I did not know I wrote links with but yeah, so anyways, where was I? Now I'm worried about going home. No. Okay, so yeah, next time when even when you, right now, if you're married, this is actually a fun activity to do because it actually creates like a platform for you to learn about how your children will handle these situations. If you're planning on having children, if you're planning on expanding your family, think about like, kind of going down that, like, hey, uncle from the mom's side or uncle from the dad's side, went through X, Y, and Z, or, we have a history of this and that. We all give a huge medical history when we go to the doctors, right? They want to know, like, if your grandfather had this or great grandfather had that. I'm like, I don't even know that, man. Like, we came here when we were kids. So, it's really important to have that information kind of available to yourself so that you know where you're coming from and what some of your emotional and mental health needs are. Because those things actually really impact your relationships in a really big way. And it also helps you understand, what some of the, how and why you would react to certain situations and how you can do better or evolve from them. So yeah, this was my disclaimer. Don't tell your parents I'm going to call their fault because I'm going to be in big trouble and the mom of this mission is going to be out of a job because that's my husband. So yeah, don't tell anyone. All right. So another, really important part to talk about is like the inner and outside voice, right? We all have a voice. We all have a little voice in the back of our head, constantly telling us, do this, do that, you're good at this, you're bad at that, don't wear that, wear this instead, and we have to listen to that voice. I don't know if anyone's ever watched Inside Out from Pixar. Yeah. Okay, like that's like a therapist dream come true movie. I used to work with little kids, and I used to work with a lot of kids who had, these are like little 5 to 8-year-old children who have had a traumatic life. And you're like 5 to 8, like they're so tiny, and like, but when you work with them and you really hear their history and you really talk about some of the issues that they've experienced, you hear all of the trauma that they've experienced in the lives that they've had. And when this movie came out, Inside Out, I was like, hallelujah, like, Disney heard me. Because like kids don't want to listen to older people talk. Like, they just want to I used to play basketball with the kids I worked with. We used to go fishing. I don't fish. You know, I just was like, yeah, just put it in there. And, you know, like do stuff to communicate, connect with them. But inside out actually really helps you kind of identify like different parts of you in terms of like your anger, your sadness, your joy. And I think there's a guilt one. Can't remember now. It's been a while. So I think that movie, if you haven't watched it, take a look. Flowers, Disney, you know, it's really laid back, very informative. But who here is good at fracture? Yes. Okay. I'm stuck at that. I'm sorry.
What's the name of the movie?
Inside Out.
That's it.
That's it. Disney's Pixar Inside Out. I could get like royalties for this. So the reason I chose cake, because I really like cake, guys. So if you like fractures, if you like cake, then you know a whole cake is better than half or a quarter, right? Just like that, a whole of you guys as an individual is better than a half and a quarter. Nobody wants that. Your spouse, the person you choose to be with, wants the whole version of you. They want to see you as who you are, what you're bringing to the, you know, marriage, to the relationship, and as you're looking to that married, they want to see the same thing. They want to see the whole version of you, not just the version who's like looking great that day, but also the version who's gonna look like crap the next morning, because that's reality. So unless you're in like the 19, like, you know, whatever 20s when people used to always look great. So yeah. So remember, like, you know, I think taking a daily weekly self-reflection journal to ask yourself about how you feel makes a huge difference. And a lot of guys are scared to do this because they're like, oh, I don't want to talk about feelings. Feelings, and I mean, I'm not speaking on the guys. It's just general experience. Like I said, I work with inmates. And, you know, when I work with inmates, they're always like, who cares about what I feel? Oh, we care about what you feel. So, you know, it's important for us to, like, you know, look inside, really see what, you know, you have, what you're about, talk about, you know, where you're experiencing, especially if you've been through trauma in your life, if you've had parents or family or history of people telling you that you're not good enough, that you can't do this, that you're not worth it. Any of that negative talk, you need to learn to just take it out and literally throw it in the trash. Because you need to be good to yourself in order for others to be good to you. And until you're not happy and satisfied with who you are, no one else is going to be happy with you. You're not going to feel good, right? You're not going to feel good about yourself, what you've become, where you are, and no amount of money for your success, nothing will make that happen. It's all about what's inside, what's happening in your brain. What are you constantly telling yourself each morning when you wake up and say, this is who I am, this is what I am, all of that good stuff. I can tell you, I practice this personally. I was practicing on the way here. I was like, you got this, Maliha. You should do this presentation. And a lot of it is because we're human. We get scared. We get nervous, right? It's you know, it's very human. So, you know, make sure that we're aware of the fact that we are all created with different parts that make us unique and different from everyone, because we have different reactions to sometimes the same circumstances, right? Be aware that our different parts have different parts that teach us how to communicate with different people in different situations. We have emotions and feelings that are triggered by different situations. So sometimes, you know, when you, I give this example a lot, terrible one, but I'll give it anyways. When someone goes, there are people who go to a funeral and they can't cry because of their own, you know, belief or their own understanding of what death means or what the loss means. And it's not in any way to make the people who have lost that person feel bad, but it's just their own personal reaction. I remember my professor, who was also my mentor, he said that when his dad passed away, they had to hire, you know, these women who are like healers. Like they would literally sit in front of the church, like in the front, you know, side, and they were crying, they were screaming, like, you know, and he was like, I don't think when that happened. And trust me, that was traumatic for me. And he was like, I didn't get it. And I looked at my mom and I asked her, did dad know these women? And she's like, and it's true because everyone, he was like, I like my dad, he was like my friend, we were close, but I didn't feel what they were feeling. And even my mom, she was so like composed that she just kind of like sat there and was, with her children. But we hired them because culturally that's what's appropriate. Culturally it's expected that women, they cry and they make a big deal and like, they do all of that. As a form of like, their culture. So, everyone deals with situations in different ways. So it's important to ask yourself what is triggering your feeling or emotion towards a situation in order to learn why you react the way that you do. When you're experiencing any type of emotion, whether it's anger, frustration, whatever the case may be with your spouse or partner, ask yourself, where is this coming from? Like, am I really mad at her or him for like this? Or am I really just upset because I had a crappy day at the office? Am I really mad at him for not taking out the garbage? Or am I really mad at him because like, I don't know, I'm just exhausted, I had a long day. So it's really important to kind of like do that self-check-in and ask yourself where you're at and why it is that you're feeling that way. Because sometimes we take our frustrations out on people that we love just because they're right there. Whereas we might be angry and upset about something else. So doing that daily self-reflection, that daily check-in, just like you make wudu, just like you pray, make it a part of your routine. At the end of the night, do a 5-minute self-check-in, see where you're at. What did you do today? What made you happy today? What made you sad today? What good did you do today for yourself or someone else? Okay, what can you do better tomorrow? And keep asking yourself these questions so that you learn more and more about yourself. We're so in tune with what everybody else is doing and how everything else is going on around us that we forget that we really have to be more careful about ourselves. We really have to focus on us as individuals. So the ABCs of me, as you do that. Give yourself attention. Give yourself the attention you need in order to know where you are. Ask yourself about, what do I like about them? How many times do we actually get told to do that? Very rarely. I know the most like, famous like, interview questions, tell me about yourself. And what do we say? I'm organized. I'm a great communicator. I'm a team player. I work really well with other people. I enjoy working in diverse communities and, teams. I, do X, Y, and Z. Like, I can tell you from the top of my head my last like 7 or 8 interviews that I've had, and I think I probably did the answer. And because I know that's what my employer or my future employer is looking to hear about, but is that really who I am? No. I could say, I love Tom and Jerry. I like watching cartoons, or I like taking walks when there's no mosquitoes out. But Maryland doesn't have that; they have a lot of mosquitoes. Things about who you are, we have to really dig in and know, because if we don't know, then our partner will never know. We ask very general questions when we're meeting someone for the first time. I remember I had one girl, like she emailed me a list. And I was like, what's this? And she's like, this is the list of questions I plan to ask my future partner. I was like, yikes. I was like, I don't want to be on that. Because that was like, she had 101 questions, not 101. And I was like, bro, what is he applying for? Like, I mean, is the job paid? Like, it's huge. 101 questions. And I was like, and I asked her, I was like, what are you going to learn from the questions? And she like said, oh, I'm learning about what he is with his mom, and like what he likes to do for fun, or what are his hobbies, or where he likes to go on a vacation, or what's his 5-year plan. I was like, are you going to be his financial advisor? Like, what do you need that information for? You need to know, like, if he likes cartoons, like something basic. You need to know the person, because if you don't know the person, then you don't know anything. If you don't even know like how they like their coffee, husband's right there. He's like, you don't know how I like my coffee. But if you don't know like the most basic thing, you're gonna find that you're not gonna have anything to talk about. You know, they're not gonna know you. They're not gonna know what your favorite color is, or whether you like kayaking, or whether you like walking. Everyone, like, I used to work for a matchmaking company, and oh my god, that was so much fun because when you read those profiles, I was just like, I do like coaching, right? So I talk to clients about what it is that they're looking to seek out of their relationship, what it is that they want, you know, what kind of things they can improve on in order to be a more like, you know, of that, like, how can this stand out, basically. So when I used to read these profiles, everyone, hobbies, travel, playing basketball, soccer. You know, what was the other one? What would you do if you had like an extra bonus? Save it. No, you won't. I mean, if I had an extra bonus, I'll tell you right now, I'll be at the Gucci store, okay? Like, let's just be real. I'm waiting for my extra bonus right now. Like, you know, you don't want to tell people what they want to hear. You want to tell people what you want to tell them, like who you really are. And when you talk to them, you ask them like, okay, I think one person told me they play the piano. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. You know, tell me more. And she was like, you know, oh, you know, when I was little, my mom really encouraged us to try different instruments and different hobbies to do what we like. Okay, that's cool. So they promoted creativity. So you were really creative. What other things did you do at the time? Oh, you know, I dabbled in art, I did this. Cool. Okay, so let's put that on, because that makes you more like stand out, right? I like to travel. Who doesn't like to travel? I remember I had this one guy, I like to travel. I was like, where's the last place we traveled to? He was like, Massachusetts. I was like, do you own a passport? I remember applying for a passport. And he was like, oh, no, you know, I never really left the country. Yeah, bro, you don't like to travel. You like to drive, okay? You don't need to go on a plane. So, like, you have to be real. Like, in order to find someone, you really gotta be real. You gotta be yourself, you know? It's okay if you like to go to Massachusetts. Like, it's all good. You don't play the ball. Like, I mean, they got duck tours and everything, right? So, you go do that. But like, be real about who you are. Why do you like to go to Massachusetts? Maybe it's for Mike's Snowies, like they're really the best. So whatever it is that you like to do, say it. Be transparent. Be kind to yourself. I think that's really important. So what I want you guys to do, and I know we're kind of like running over time here, but what I did was I had brought these little stickies for everyone, and a little pen. And everyone can take a sticky note and a pen, and hopefully there's enough pens. Write one positive self-affirmation about yourself, okay? And post it somewhere you can see it every morning before you start your day. So if you're the type of person, like myself, who gets up to turn off their alarm on their phone, you look at your phone for the first thing, right? Play on your phone. Read it to yourself by looking in the mirror. Like, make eye contact with you, right? Go stand in the mirror, doesn't matter how you look, just look and say whatever your self-affirmation is. And do it for yourself 21 days. Why 21 days? Because it literally takes 21 days to change a habit. I learned that when I was like trying to change, you know, my eating habits. I love to eat pancakes. So 21 days it takes to change a habit. And then after 21 days, write a new one and repeat it. That's the best way to be kind to yourself. So you guys are probably wondering, like, what's the self-affirmation, right? Say something good to yourself. Say something positive to yourself that you think or know you want to hear every morning. Whether it's like you want to hear from your spouse or partner, or it's something that you think you need to hear from yourself. So I'm going to give everyone like 2 minutes to like write that down. And again, if you want to share it, you're welcome to share it. If you feel like you want to keep it private, that's okay too. So we'll take a 2-minute break and everyone is ready to go. So Even if it's already something that you say to yourself or have been saying to yourself, you can write that too. It's just a reminder. So something kind to yourself, right? Like, I'm brilliant. I'm amazing. I'm a superstar. I can conquer the world. I can conquer all of my goals. You know, something that will like boost your morale. Like, because we often don't talk nice to ourselves, right? Like, let's say if you had a really bad day at the office and the boss yelled at you because you didn't like make it enough time to like file all of your paperwork or whatever. You are going home that day thinking in your brain, in the back of your head, that you sucked because you weren't able to meet that deadline. You're not saying it out loud to yourself. You're not like making it new to the world. You don't go on your computer and say, "I'm sorry." You are literally saying it to you in the back of your brain, and you're holding on to that. So the next day when you go into work, chances are you are going to be so much lower at the work that you do than you would be on a normal basis, because in the back of your head, you're reminding yourself that yesterday I failed, therefore I'm a failure, right? So why even bother? So instead of making that connection and say to yourself, I'm brilliant, I got it. I can get it done. If not today, I'll get it done tomorrow. You know, I had a little hiccup, I had a little very rapid bump in the road, but tomorrow I'm gonna get it done. That's you communicating to yourself that you are where you need to be in this moment. So it's really important to again remind yourself, speak to yourself, talk to yourself, so that you know that you're doing good. So that's what the self-affirmation is for. All right. So how are you doing with self-affirmation? Good, done. Oh, excellent. All right. Anyone want to share theirs really quickly? Oh, go ahead. Excellent. All right. Someone hug. Yep. We'll have to ask your wife now. Anyone else? I'm fearless. Excellent. That's right.
I'm nice.
All right.
I'm
There you go. Excellent. Anything else? Anyone else? Real quick. I'm passionate. Excellent. Perfect. All right. So the last slide here is like taking care of yourself. It's really important to do self-care. I'm like a big advocate for self-care because when you take care of yourself, when you focus on yourself, you're giving yourself the love and the attention that you need in order to be there for your spouse and your partner. You're there for like your family. You're more attentive and aware. When you give up on yourself and you're kind of like, I don't need to get my hair cut, or I don't need to get my nails done, or I don't need to like, you know, wash up this morning, whatever the case may be, you're gonna not feel good about yourself. And therefore you're then telling the world, I don't care. And I don't want to be here. And I don't want to be present today. But when you get up, you take care of yourself, whether you go out and you get like your mani and pedi every 2 weeks, whether you get your hair done, whether you get hair cut, whether you get like a nice facial that most men get when they get their beards and stuff done, whatever the case may be, you're telling yourself that you matter. And when you tell yourself that you matter, you're also telling the people around you, including your spouse, your families, that you're also important. And this is a sign of nonverbal communication, right? The way you dress, the way you take care of yourself, the way you focus on yourself. And whenever you feel good and look good on the outside, you're gonna feel good on the inside. And sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes we do look really well and put together on the outside, but inside we're struggling. So part of it sometimes speaks out that, go well with you. We're, open to our families. Our families are open to us. They're caring for us. They're taking care of us. I'm taking care of myself. Things like that. So it's really important to take care of yourself and to communicate to yourself that you need to look good and feel where you need to be in order to be there for everyone else. So listen to your inner voice. When you listen to yourself, you will always find me. You are your own expert, and no one knows you better than you. If you don't know yourself, you gotta start that work today. You gotta start looking inward, and you really gotta start seeing, what am I missing? What part of me am I not going to put out there, either for myself or for someone else to know? So important, because no one's gonna know you better. And trust me, I think someone mentioned like reading in between the lines and like kind of seeing that fine print when you're talking to someone or communicating with someone. This is that. If you don't do that, you're gonna find yourself like always saying, "Well, I said it," or "Don't you see I'm not doing well?" Where am I supposed to come on that? How am I supposed to come on that? Your partner needs to be able to read you in a way where you're being more transparent with them so that they know that, like, okay, this is what you're going through. I've seen couples come in and out and say, "Oh, I always tell my, it's obvious that I'm not doing well." Okay, what did you say to your spouse to, make them know that you're not doing well? I mean, can't she see or can't he know? Like, oh, how are they gonna know? Like, the biggest problem a lot of couples face is like the mind reading, because apparently when you get married, you're supposed to get psychic powers, and you're supposed to kind of like know, like, this is what my spouse needs, whatever it is. You're supposed to read minds. That superpower does not come to everyone, unfortunately. So really important to be able to communicate that, and the way you do it is by being aware of what it is that you're actually going through in order to tell your partner that, hey, I'm going through X, Y, and Z. And then, last, talk in a positive way so that when you're talking to your spouse, you'll find yourself doing it in a positive way. So it's important to love yourself where you love someone, right? You can't love a person just because oh, I'm married to them, so I love them, or oh, I'm married to them, so I just care about them. But if you don't even care about you enough to show that you care about yourself, if you don't even love yourself enough, chances are you're not even going to be able to know how to express that love to your partner. So it's so important to really open up and talk to them about who you are, where you are, what you're going through. And I'm not saying have a therapy session with your spouse, because I know there's not enough time in the day to have those conversations where you can both sit and kind of look on the day with each other. But be able to easily communicate and feel comfortable communicating that, saying, hey, I had a really crappy day today. Or, when I have a crappy day, I tend to isolate, or I tend to take space. So when you come home and you're having a crappy day, say that, hey, hon, I'm gonna go in the room for a few minutes. I'm just gonna decompress for my day, come back, and then we'll talk. Being able to say that. Or, if you have a routine where you drive, your job is 15 minutes away, and you need to decompress before you walk in the door, send a text message and say, hey, I'm going to be a few minutes late. I'm just seeing a drive. And that gives you 10, 15 minutes to decompress, leave whatever you dealt with, during the day, and then come back and also let your spouse know. And you know what? Maybe something happened at work today, but let me try to wrap up whatever I'm doing so I can be present for him when they get in. Because that's how you're communicating your needs and wants. But you can't expect your spouse to just wake up one morning and be like, oh, I have an encyclopedia of information on my husband or wife. Because trust me, you could be married for 15 years, or you could be married for 50 years and not know your wife's favorite color and keep giving her yellow flowers and red ones. Can it happen? It's just about being comfortable to say, hey, this is what's going on, and this is what I'm experiencing, then this is what I need. A lot of the times, all of this information will get lost in translation because we feel like it's just expected that our partner knows. But if you don't know, they don't know. So if you don't know how to decompress, if you don't know that you need a 5-minute drive around the block to feel better, then they don't know that that's what you need. If you don't know that you need to take space, or if you need to have a cup of coffee, or maybe go shoot some hoops, or go play tennis, or take a walk, then they don't know. So if you don't say that this is what I like to do, then it's always going to be you're going to be fighting with each other about the same thing, and it's going to be a completely different conversation. So know yourself, then get to know the other person. Conflict resolution, another one of our favorites. Remember that day saying sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never break me? Yeah, in a marriage that doesn't work. Words break marriages, like to the point of marriage. This is true and false again, depending on the situation. But most marriages do veer from hard because what isn't said instead of what is being said. So what I mean by that is that you don't always have to say I love you or I miss you or you look great or thank you or any of those things. You don't have to say that for the rest of your life, right? And if you say it once in a while, it's okay. It's welcome. If you don't say it, for a month, your spouse might question it, like, why hasn't he said it? But it's what you do say that makes a huge difference. Like if you call names, if you start pointing names, and if you start saying, you are this, you act like that, you do this. If you start doing those things, if you start pointing fingers and calling names, those words, they can't be erased. Those are now like this seed that's being planted and watered, and it's gonna grow in that person's mind because now they're feeling less than who they are. And no matter how many times you say sorry, it won't help, it won't change it. Because sorry doesn't mean that the words are not disappearing. Sorry doesn't mean that what you said is gone. It's still there. So it's so important to understand how you react when you're angry or upset, and knowing what your boundaries and your limits are in that time. So knowing that there are certain boundaries we cannot cross. We cannot put our hands on each other. And when I feel like I'm losing control of my body, I'm gonna walk away. I'm gonna leave the room. I'm gonna step away. If I feel like I'm gonna say something to her or say something to him, I'm going to physically either close my mouth or I'm going to go. Because before I say it, before I cross that boundary, I want to make sure I don't do something that I might later regret. Because that happens more times than we can count. Another terrible joke, but works. Well, I see that things have gotten a little tense this week for New Year vows in our class session. Some counselors actually do use those inflatable bats, that you can kind of vibe with physically. And it actually works because it gets the tension down, right? It's not to beat your partner in any way. But it's really just get that physical aggression out, that physical tension. But it also kind of becomes playful after a while. I've seen this happen, in just learning about it, where couples will have these inflatable, these little those bats that you get at the carnival, they don't work. They start by just tap, 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 and they're tap, they're really bad. And then they start having fun with it, and they're poking each other or whatever, just out of fun. Because they realize that they're not really physically angry or mad at their spouse, and they would never do anything to physically hurt their spouse. But it's just I think it's more of a natural thing that we experience, that when we get angry, our body gets tense, right? And now that your muscles are really tense, you want to loosen them up somewhere, or you want to do something, throw something, bang something, whatever. So not promoting that you do that in your homes, guys. It's only in a therapeutic session that you can do it. But definitely, be careful of how you're resolving your conflict. Be careful of how you're talking to one another. Be careful of your stance, of your tone, your posture, the words that you're using when you're talking to each other. Name calling is by far the worst thing you can do, because when you start name calling, you start labeling, and nobody likes to be labeled as anything, and it just hurts more than anything else. So there are some negative communication patterns. These are anyone familiar with the Gottman Institute? They have some really, they're very good. It's a whole institute dedicated to couples and marriage. And these are 4 of their horsemen of apocalypse. So this is what often happens when a fight is happening or a disagreement is happening. There's always criticism. So, which is also blame. So what you then say is, you always do this. You always talk to me this way, or you always make me feel like X, Y, and Z, or you always make sure that this happens. Instead of that, talk about your feelings. Use I feel statements. And again, it's hard to do that in the heat of the moment, but the more you practice it, the better it gets. So say, I feel angry when we fight. I feel angry when we come home late and we don't spend time with each other. I feel this, X, Y, and Z. So making sure we're expressing what we're feeling, what's going on with us, rather than pointing the finger and saying, you do this to me. Contempt or fighting, is often like verbal abuse, right? So offers no opportunity for joining in resolution. So you're constantly, when you start name calling, when you start saying to your partner, the person, they shut down immediately and they don't want to talk to you anymore because now they're at a point where they're just kind of like, I don't even want to deal with it. Like, why are you bringing me to a point where I'm not comfortable being? And again, it happens often when you're feeling a certain type of way, when you're angry, when you're like, really upset. So making sure that we don't even get here. Defensiveness. This happens more than enough. Like a type of blame, right? You're saying it's all your fault. The reason I'm angry right now is because of you. You made me angry. You did it to me. You're the reason why I wake up in the morning and I'm so unhappy. You're the reason why, our house is not filled with mercy. You're the reason why, our bills are not being paid, right? When it comes to a relationship, it's not about you or him or her, it's about us, right? It's about coming together as one unit and figuring out what it is that you need to do in order to get through your life together. So really remembering that we're not pointing fingers, we're not being defensive, we're not blocking ourselves or shielding ourselves from the negativity. Because, I always think my couples, when you clap, you both hands, right? So in a relationship, husband and wife, that's how you clap, that's how you make it work. So each person plays a role, every situation. Very few situations, yes, they are there where, one party plays a bigger role than the other one. But oftentimes it's so important to hear two sides of the story rather than hearing just one. Stonewalling, so just saying, ignoring the person, sometimes out of fear, right? You don't even want to hear it, but if you see your spouse kind of like doing their own thing or being upset, you're kind of just gonna walk right by. The example I gave with the guy who didn't want to have eye contact with his wife, just walking past to say, I don't really want to deal with this. I rather just go about my way. I'd rather just ignore you. Or even when your partner is frustrated or angry with you, you ignoring them instead of just like actually coming to a resolution and solving whatever the situation is. So ask for a break. Say, you know what? I see that you're mad right now. I'm getting mad. Let's take a break. Let's come back. Couples who have actually worked on this, of taking a break and coming back, have more success in their relationship because they now know that there is a boundary that is visible to both of them, and they're realizing that they're about to cross it. So they literally pull themselves back and they walk away from it. And a lot of the times couples are like, well, where can I go? Or what can I do? Or, what works? Leave the house if you need to. If that is something that you both decided on, you can walk out and say, you know what, I'll be back in 15 minutes and we'll talk about this again. So in 15 minutes, you come back and you sit down and you talk about it. Why? Because it allows you to take a break, think about what the situation is. Why are you really angry, right? Why are you really having this argument? How are you going to approach it? And if you're still not ready in 15 minutes, ask for another 5 or 10. Reflect on what it is that's causing you to feel the way that you feel. So that way you don't come at it from it could be something as simple as you didn't take out the garbage last night, but now you guys are talking about, well, your mom did this, or your dad does this, or this happened, or that happened, or the house was a mess, and when it was all really about you forgot to take out the garbage. So always remember what is the root cause and what's triggering your argument. So this is kind of fun, actually. So that's precisely what we're talking about. You can actually say that anytime, share a difficult issue. When they mean fun. And when everything's resolved, it's just like come back. A lot of the time, we'll see this in our practice that clients just kind of like, I don't even know what we're talking about. I don't even know why we're here. Or what? I don't know why she brought me to therapy. Like, that's why, Bob. You gotta face your needs. You can't not deal with whatever it is that's going on in your home, because the more you slip it under the carpet, the more likely it is that things become this huge mountain when it was really just a little, powder that you could have taken care of. So some of the things that do work, I'll go through quickly, are, don't use silent treatment. I know it's easy and it works, or it works. I just ignore it. I don't listen to it. I don't see anything. I don't even talk back to my wife, or I don't even talk back to my husband, right? And it's, oh, mashallah, like, stops, you don't talk back. No, talk about what's going on. Have a conversation rather than a disagreement, try not to jump to conclusions and find all the facts rather than guessing at your partner's motives. Like, instead of saying, like, the reason you're talking to me about this is because you need this, or the reason you're saying is because you want that. Rather than saying, yeah, it's like, okay, what are you trying to say? Like, let's talk about what's going on. Discuss what actually happened. It's the same issue. If it was just about the garbage, just about the garbage. It's not about anything else. Don't judge each other. Create an environment in your space between the two of you where you have no judgments, where your spouse and your partner can really feel comfortable about talking about who they are, what they are, rather than, feeling like they have to hide themselves. And talk using future and present tense, not a past. And I wrote, if you have a time machine, and in that case, we need to talk, because that would be great. A lot of clients are always talking about what has happened and not what is happening. Don't worry about what's happened. It's done. You're past that, right? And if you're not past it, let's talk about what is holding you back. I think we also have some quick, little, handouts that either will be emailed to you, which give you a little bit more tips about how to communicate more effectively. There's also a little, a quiz or an assessment that's in there, that a self-assessment about what kind of communicator you are. You'll learn about that from doing it, so that way you know what kind of communicator you are. A lot of these things are repeated on that, so I'm not going to take up too much of the time because we've already gone past. Again, what can you do? If you can't do any of those, if you can't be an effective communicator, if you are going to continue to be angry or upset, if you're not going to be able to look inside and really see who you are, what you are, what if you get into a place where you are having a lot of conflict with your spouse or with your partner or with other people? What do? Best thing you can do is walk away. Learn to walk away. Step away from it. If in the heat of the moment you're so worked up that you know that you can't, you're going to react in a negative way, do your best to get up and just move. Change your space, change your environment. Just stop, think, reflect on what the situation is, and then go from there. So, and with that, I think we're done. Yep. Yay! Thank you, everyone.